Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Well, actually, gentlemen, because only 1.8% of ladies watch this channel. Anyway, today we are going to do a summary video on the 2021 Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo, and I'm going to give you 3 things that I really liked about it, 3 things that I didn't, and at the end tell you my thoughts generally about the car itself. That I really liked about the 2021 Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo is its adaptive suspension, or chassis, as Porsche likes to say. So you have a huge range of movement. I'm going to overlay a video right now that shows you this, and this huge range of movement allows this car to be used throughout the year, even if it's snowing, even if you're going up a non-paved road, you're going out for a weekend of adventure with your friends and you need to get there in a luxury electric car. The Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo can help you get there. So I would say that the biggest selling point right now, if I was a Porsche dealer, I would say, hey, this is the suspension that makes the car, because making it the way that they've done it, it raises the ride height. Some might say not a huge amount, but it's still there, and it allows you to go to places where you wouldn't usually take a Porsche. And with all the cladding and stuff like that and its off-road feel, I definitely think that this is the biggest advantage that the Taycan 4 Cross Turismo has over other luxury EVs at the same price point. The second thing that I really liked, and there is no denying this, are the driving characteristics. I mean, in one of my videos about it, I asked if it's a real Porsche, and it 100% is. The way that it drives works really well with the architecture built into it. You know, the battery is huge, it's heavy. The way that they tuned everything about the car makes it really fun to drive. And if you take it out onto windy roads, if you're going to go and drive backcountry, you're going to have a good time. It's not only a car that does really well in a straight line on the highway, but it also does really well when you get off the main roads. You know, you put it into sport mode even, and you go and have some fun. So definitely driving characteristics are 100% Porsche. And there's been a lot of people saying that it isn't that. A lot of Porsche owners, have been saying that, they don't consider the Porsche Taycan to be a true Porsche. But the same thing was said when the first Cayenne came out. The same thing was said when the first Panamera came out. All the diehard Porsche fans were saying that these are not real Porsche cars, but today they're iconic in their own way. So is the same with the Porsche Taycan. It is going to be an iconic car, and it is, I would say right now, is very iconic in what it does, and it does it really well. So if you're looking for a car that has great driving dynamics, not only in a straight line, the Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo, or any Porsche Taycan, should be on your list. The third thing I really liked about it is the styling. Again, that's kind of subjective, but I really like the way that it looks. I think that the Cross Turismo looks much better than the regular Taycan, but call me biased, I really love the way that Germany has pioneered the hot wagon market. Look at Audi, look at BMW, look at Mercedes-Benz. They all have these super fast station wagons, all right? And everybody has one. Porsche has one now too, with this Cross Turismo, and I think that the styling looks good. Front, as I said in my in my review, I was never 100% a fan of it. It has that Porsche styling. I mean, if you line it up with all the other Porsche cars, the styling is there. It's part of the family. That's true. But for me, the front was never the thing that I really loved about it. It was the back, and especially the Cross Turismo version looks amazing. So definitely, if I was getting in this car, I would get the Cross Turismo version over anything else. I think it has more utility. I think it looks better, and at the end of the day, when I was driving it, people were noticing me. When you drive a Tesla nowadays, especially where I live, everybody's got a Tesla. They're not special anymore. They used to be, but they're not special anymore. So if you want to buy an EV that's going to turn heads, that's going to, make people stop and look at it, definitely the Porsche Taycan, and especially the Cross Turismo trim, is the car to go for. So if you're a styling buff and you like the way that the car looks, this is definitely a good choice. Now let's talk about the first negative that I experienced while driving the 2021 Porsche Taycan Cross Turismo. And for me, an electric car needs to have good regen. This one does not. There is an automatic setting or a high setting, or just basically off, so you have no regen, so it keeps rolling, right? So with the automatic, I never saw that it would actually work well. I saw some videos on YouTube with other reviewers saying that it does work quite well for them. That wasn't the case for me, unfortunately. So I turned it on to the highest setting, and it just wasn't enough. I'm a huge fan of one pedal driving. When I drive the Tesla Model 3, for example, I love the fact that I don't have to touch the brake. Yeah, it does use the brake just before it stops. It's not 100% regen, right? But the way that they built it into the system, into the mechanics of the vehicle, it's so seamless that I really like the way that it works. So I don't have to necessarily touch the brake unless it's an emergency situation and I need to stop fast. That's not the case with the Porsche. I think that, you know, they're trying to go for the sports car dynamic here and give us, or give those who drive those kind of cars, kind of like what they expect from the car itself. But I think that for the EV crowd, the ones that are into it a bit more, just like me, we would prefer to have a setting where the regen is a little bit more stronger, and especially because, you know, if you drive this car really hard, you do need that regen, so it'd be nice to have that. So that's my first thing. Now the second thing is, unfortunately, I have to go and say the interior, and it might be just because I had a full black version of the interior and it just didn't wow me when you step inside. Don't get me wrong, material quality is excellent, okay? There's no fault with that. But just, I don't know, the styling of it didn't wow me. So if I'm going to spend $150,000 on a vehicle, when I get into the interior, I want to experience something, okay? And I didn't have that experience. When I first stepped in, the thing that I really, you know, wowed about were the screens, right? The screens, you know, the gauge and cluster in front of me, you know, the screens that are there, really nice. But the interior just felt like it wasn't 100%, you know, what I would expect from a vehicle like this. Now, maybe a different color. If there was a bit more contrast between the black exterior and maybe like a red interior, that would work better. But just, it needs some contrast. So just be mindful of that. If you're looking to order one of these vehicles, I would go to the dealer and look at what kind of options they would have in terms of different colors, maybe different textures and things like that you can add. So definitely. And then when I'm talking about interior and the way that it's, you know, used and the usability of it, the haptic feedback of the HVAC controls, you know, the small 8-inch screen that is there, you know, it's just, it doesn't work well. When you're driving and when you're pushing this vehicle, a button would be good, at least for a few different things, like, you know, increasing, decreasing the, you know, temperature or the volume of the stereo or whatever. It would be nice to have that as a physical button. And it's interesting because many years ago, Porsche was like button overload. And then with the Taycan, they're like, yeah, touch screen. And the haptic feedback, even though you can change it and you can make it stronger or weaker depending on your preference, it still isn't as good as a physical button. Now I know everybody's been saying that, but it's one of the things that I did notice, and I just want to make and let you guys know that it's also an issue for me. So yeah, more buttons, Porsche, at least for the most important settings. And now we get to the third thing that I didn't like so much about the Porsche Taycan 4 Cross Turismo, and that is the build quality. And this kind of pains me to say because this car only had 3,000 kilometers on it. But there were a lot of creaks and rattles already. Now, when you're talking about EVs, that's one of the things that I am very, I don't know, would say mindful of. I do notice it more because it's so quiet in the cabin, right? There's no engine noise, there is no transmission, there is nothing, right? So it's pure silence. And then you get to hear all of the build quality issues. So there was you know, a few creaks and cracks and stuff like that when you're going over bumps and things like that. And And I would say from a car that costs $150,000, I would expect a little bit more in terms of quality. And especially knowing that this is a German brand. Look, I know it's Volkswagen, okay? Volkswagen is the mother company here, and you know, a lot of the you know, knowledge of Audi EVs kind of trickled down into the Taycan, you know. So you know, the e-tron, right? The Audi e-tron. But I would say that, yeah, going forward, I think that they need a little bit more quality. Now, you guys might say, hey, you know, Tesla has its own build quality issues, you know, panel gaps and creaks and rattles inside the interior. Sure, you know, Tesla has their issues too. But my $50,000 Canadian top of the line Kia Soul EV has less, you know, cracking and just build quality issues than the Taycan. So I can get 3 Kias for 1 Taycan, right? So, you know, it's just things like that I would say, hey, you know what? When I'm paying that as much money as I'm paying for this car, yeah, sure, it looks good, but also it has to make me feel good, you know, and having those creaks and rattles just isn't up to par, I think. Overall, I think it's a great car. If you have the money and you can afford to buy one, just stop watching the video, go get your, you know, checkbook and run to your nearest dealer and get one. You will not regret it. It's one of the best driving, best performing luxury EVs on the market right now. If you're considering a Tesla Model S, for example, or Model X, do yourself a favor and go for a test drive with the Taycan. You're looking at almost the same pricing, but you need to drive the Taycan before you push that button on that Tesla website and order that Model S and Model X. But here's where things get a little bit tricky, right? The price is what it is, and Porsche is what Porsche is, right? So if you add stuff on, if you want more things inside your car, the price is going to skyrocket, right? We know that. So here's my conundrum. For the base model, it's an awesome car, but when you want to add more things to it and make it kind of your own and personalize it, quickly you're going to find out that you're going to be paying 200,000 Canadian dollars for something like that. All right, maybe even more than this. So now, is it worth it? I don't know. I would say that if you option it out beyond 200,000, it makes it much harder to recommend. I think that the sweet spot would be somewhere between the $100,000 to $150,000 range for a car like this. You've got that super fast 800 volt charging infrastructure architecture inside the vehicle that makes it charge super quick, right? Up to what, 270 kilowatt, right? Max speed. You have all of that, right? So for me, the most important things in an EV is that it drives well and it charges fast, right? But then, yeah, like I said, if you're going beyond 150,000 and you're looking at more options and you're gonna spec it out a little bit differently, or go for the turbo or GTS, which goes even beyond 200,000, right? That's when it kind of starts getting harder to recommend the car. I would honestly say that the Model Y and Model 3 Performance are just as fun on the corners, just as fun to drive, really well-made cars. Yeah, maybe the quality is not good, but the infotainment is solid. You get over-the-air updates. Some are good, some are not very good, but hey, you know, that's how it is with Tesla. But it costs way less, right? So your entry point into EVs, performance EVs, is much lower. So a performance Model Y, a performance Model 3, you're getting that high-speed charging, you're getting that Tesla network. So that's something to consider. But if you're saying to yourself, okay, 100,000 to 150,000 is okay for me and I can afford that, definitely. If you're looking at a Model S or a Model X, look at the Taycan first. Look at it, drive it, see what it's like, and decide if you want to go and do that and purchase a Tesla. But if anything over 100,000 is too expensive, a Model 3, Model Y Performance are just as good. So it just depends on your budget, as it is with everything else. Now, for myself, if I had the money, definitely not a problem. I would have gone and bought what I had you know, to test, which was about $150,000, and that's a great car. I would just do the interior a little bit differently, maybe a different color, and that would be it. I wouldn't change anything. Maybe the wheels, I would go for smaller wheels to get a bit more range out of the vehicle, because that's also important. But yeah, overall, I think it's a great car. I love my time with it. I think it's a great vehicle. Like I said, with the positives, you know, all those things make it a really, really good car. So yeah, if you have the money and you're looking at a Model S or Model X, definitely have a look at the Taycan Cross Turismo, or the regular Taycan too. But if going over 100,000 is a little bit too much, then the Tesla performance options are just as great. Okay, so that's it. That's the last video of the series on the Taycan 4 Cross Turismo. I hope you enjoyed the series. I hope I get to drive even more different vehicles. And yeah, that's it for today. Well, thank you so much for watching. As always, take care, and see you on the next one.